Hi, folks. I had a couple questions about 4.1 and just building equations and expressions in general using tables and pictures. So I'm going to introduce this, this is sort of an addition to the video for 4.1, and I'm going to try and make it as simple as I can with regard to how we take our charts and how we build equations and expressions from them. So when it says, let's do 11 here, when it says describe the pattern that relates to V or relates V to T, this is always how I start these, all right? So what I do is I check, my pen here, check what's happening right here. Okay, because there's always going to be a pattern if it's a linear relationship. So you can see we start at 11, we get to 22, 33. So that's plus 11 each time. So I've established a pattern. And you also have to establish a pattern on the other side. So that's plus 1, and so on. What you do at this point, the simplest way that I like to do these questions is when we're building an expression for terms of t, and then it says build an equation, really you're just, you might as well just write the equation because the expression is inside the equation. So you always start with this side here, whatever that variable is. So it would be v equals, all right? Now what you do is you take whatever the jump is here, it could be positive, could be negative, as long as it's consistent, and then you divide it by what's on the other side. If this side goes up by 1 every time, then you don't have to worry about that step. It's only if this side goes up by more than 1 that you have to divide this number by this number. But right now, if we divide 11 by 1, we just get 11 anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So the very first thing you do is you write this on the other side of the equals, and then you put the variable right behind it. So it's going to be 11 times t. And all we have to figure out after that is what goes on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to test this so far. If t equals 1, okay, so let's just write this again. So if t equals 1, what is 11 times t? Well, 11 times 1 is just 11, right? So let's look at this number. Do we have to do anything to this number to change it into what we see in this column? No, it already gets the right number. So that means this is a super easy one. V just equals 11t. We don't have to add or subtract anything to that 11t to make it work. But it also says to test it with a couple values. So let's test it with t equals 2, and then we'll test it with t equals 3. So if we test it with t equals 2, we've got v equals 11, and then we just substitute in the t number. Okay, so this time it would be 2, so v equals 22, and that checks out, right? So that checks. Then let's check with t equals 3. Well, it would be v equals 11 times the t, which is 3, which equals 33. So if we check our chart, 3, 33, that one checks out too. So our expression, okay, so the expression is 11t, okay? The equation is v equals 11t. All right, so let's do that a couple more times, and I'll do it quickly because it's really just a process, so once you get used to it, you should be fine. So let's check what the pattern is here. The pattern appears to be plus 3, and then over here, it's just plus 1 all the way down, right? And this one's plus 3 as well. I usually write it out twice. So let's build our equation based on that and see if we have to change it. So we write v equals, you always start with this one, v equals, and then you take this number, okay, divide it by this number, so 3 divided by 1 is just 3. Okay, then you put this variable, t, and then we check, okay, so v equals 3t. If v equals 3 times t, if we look at the 1, so 3 times 1 is 3, that's not 5. So what do we have to do to this side in order to make it equal 5? If we're just talking about t equals 1, 3 times t is 3, and then we'd have to add 2, correct? To get to 5, right? So let's just check 1 here. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 equals 5. So that equation works for the first one. Let's test it with a couple others, okay? So now let's test with t equals 3 and then t equals 4. So if t equals 3, okay, your equation never changes. It's v equals 3 times the t, which is 3, plus 2. So 3 times 3 is 11, or sorry, is 9, plus 2 is 11. Does that check out with t equals 3? Yes, it does. Then let's check it with v equals 4. Let's scroll down a bit here. So now let's check it with t equals 4. Okay, so with t equals 4, it's still the same equation, v equals 3, and then this times 4 plus 2. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Does that check out? Yes, it does. Okay. So in this one, the expression is 3t plus 2. That's the expression. The equation is the whole thing, v equals 3t plus 2. All right, let's look at this one once again. And with a lot of these, you're just going up by plus 1 each time. And then on this side, you're going down by 1 this time. Okay, so every time we go down by 1. So let's just look at the exact same process. Okay, so we're going to take the v, and we're going to say v equals, and then we're going to take this number, the jump number, and divide it by this number. Well, -1 divided by 1 is just -1. So -1 times, what's our variable? T. Okay, I probably shouldn't put the bracket there. Okay, I'll just put -1t. So -1t. And then let's see what happens. So if I take 1 as t, well, -1 times 1 is -1. How do I turn that into a 7? How do I turn -1 into a 7? I have to add 8. Okay? And -1t is really just the same as -t plus 8. Okay? So you could write it that way. The other way you could write it is, and it means the exact same thing, it doesn't matter what order these things are in as long as the sign is the same. So you could write this a different way if you wanted. You could write this as positive 8 minus t, and you'd get the exact same answer. Okay? So let's check to see if this works. Let's check with t equals 3, and let's check with t equals 4. Okay? So we're going to check with t equals 3 first. So v equals negative, and then t would be 3, right? Plus the 8. Okay. So -3 is obviously just -3, plus 8 equals 5. So then we'll check our number. For t equals 3, we do get 5, so that checks out. Now let's check with t equals 4. Okay, so it's v equals negative, and then the t would be 4 plus 8. Right? So v equals -4 plus 8 equals positive 4, and that checks out as well. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more information on how you can build your expressions and your equations based upon a table of values. And you know that you can build a table of values if they give you a picture. So let me know by email if you have any more questions, and hopefully that kind of helps you get going on the 4.1 and 4.2 material.